Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Revival of America podcast. This is Jenny. I'm the owner and the host of the Revival of America. Today we have Derek Johnson in the house, everybody. So please, guess what? Cross your fingers. I'm hoping we're going to get to some Q&A today, everybody. I did let him know that the audience has been requesting some Q&A, and with so much going on, hopefully we can get to some of that as well. So let's cross our fingers, everybody. We will get to that. So, of course, there is his picture on the wall, and if you want to write a question underneath the comment area, you're more than welcome to do that, or raise your hand once we get to that part of this podcast. Crossing our fingers, we do. I will unmute your mic if you raise your hand, and you can ask your question to Derek. Also, to everybody, per the usual, right? Be careful who you listen to, who you follow, what you're putting into your mind. It's getting crazy out there, as you know. So I don't probably have to keep telling you that anymore, but sometimes I do because I see some of these people that are even in here listening to the podcast that I do, going over to X, listening to some of these black pillars. So, and some of them have messaged me asking me, is this true? Is this not true? So just be careful, everybody. Use your discernment. Turn it on in a high gear, everybody. Just if it doesn't resonate with you, stay out of the minutia, stay out of the noise, because that's really what it is. With all the great things going on, just stay out of that noise. I do believe that we are going to be coming into some rocky roads here. I mean, we're already seeing some, right? But just stay vigilant, head on a swivel, eyes on God, and just be careful. You know what you're doing out there, who you're listening to. Also, if you get a random message, somebody claiming it's me, asking about money, you have financial scare, crypto, know that it is not me. I will not randomly reach out to you and ask you those questions. So please block them, report them, and let me know so I can make sure they're not here in my channel. Also, too, if you have a question for me, or you want to get in touch with John Baxter, or have questions for Carrie Kasem or Rick Asen with Brain IQ, you can email me and ask me those questions at the Revival of America at yahoo.com. And then that's my direct email. But if you have submissions for stories and journeys that you want to tell on the show, send those to TROA submissions at yahoo.com, because those get buried in my everyday email. And as you can imagine, I get a lot of daily emails. So please send your submissions to TROA submissions at yahoo.com. And then any questions or concerns, getting in contact with any of my guests with their natural products, send the message to the Revival of America at yahoo.com. Also, everybody, check out the website, therevivalofamerica.com. Sign up for the newsletter. That gives you the latest notifications on the podcast, as well as the weekly newsletter. So we just created a new one. So we weren't able to get out the newsletter this week, but it will start next week. But John's information's on there, the website, the code that he has created for the audience. Carrie Kasem's information is on there, as well as her code that she has created for the audience. And then Rick Asen with Brain IQ, with all of his natural supplements. His disc code is on there as well for you guys, and the products, if you guys want to check them out. A lot of great stuff, everybody. A lot of great natural stuff that we're coming into. So I'm really excited to be bringing those to you. I'm going to be talking to some other people. One is a doctor that helped her husband cure himself of dementia, which I thought was pretty interesting. So I'm going to be reaching out to her, see if I can get her on the show. And then also too, you've heard Carrie talk about the oxygenated therapy. So it's the water, oxygenated water, as well as biomagnetic therapy. These are all some of the things that Carrie has done to help heal her from her Lyme disease. And she has testimonials and knows people that were told they had cancer, stage 4, put into hospice, and they use these therapies and they are healed. They are with us today. So that is super exciting, everybody. I'm super excited to be able to bring these things to you, because we all know we're looking for alternatives, and the doom and gloom, and how these doctors and physicians, whatever you want to call them, how they treat you like a number. It should never be a number that you have with your physician. You should that should be one of the closest relationships you have with your physician when it comes to your health. So if that's how you're feeling, reach out to me, and let me see what I can do to get you in touch with John, or maybe Rick Asen, or any of these people that I'm going to be bringing on board. So it's very exciting what is happening out there that we don't know about. We haven't been able to know about it because it's been hidden from us, but it's coming to fruition, everybody. So I'm really glad to be bringing all of that to you. Also, everybody, we are being listened to in over 100 countries. So please follow the podcast host at iHeartRadio, Spotify, Anchor, Apple, Google, Breaker, PocketCast, Podbean, Riverside, Amazon Music. Social medias are Jenny Jeread Facebook, at Jenny_Jeread X, at JJeread Rumble, at JJeread True Social, at JJeread Instagram, The Revival of America right here on Telegram, The Revival of America YouTube, and then at the official JJeread over on TikTok. Also, everybody, go follow my YouTube page. Just because if you're over on a Rumble and for some reason you're not able to get the sound, because I'm finding out and talking to my tech, there's some challenges from Rumble, from uploading it to Rumble from my computer, or there's a lot of different settings on people's iPads, computers, laptops, phones, TVs, the settings of volumes. You got to figure that out. So, but when I go into my Rumble and I listen to all of my shows, I can hear it. I can hear the show. But also too, it's over on YouTube. If you don't want to deal with that, go to YouTube. If you're having that same problem, then more than likely it's your device that you're on that you gotta work with the volume on. So just go follow the YouTube page, just because if you can't get on Rumble, go over to YouTube. It's there. Also too, everybody, let's see what else. Oh, Fields books. Fields McConnell's books have arrived. So I did get those today. Got 400 of his books today. He has made it where you, the public, can now purchase them, because there's been many, many requests for them. So once the I had to change from PayPal to Square. Square is going to be a little bit easier to use, because I haven't even had the PayPal link for a week, and somebody's already complaining. So that they deactivated my account over there. So the links are on the wall. They are available for you guys to purchase. I will be mailing them out every Friday. I'm hoping to get the first set of books out this Friday. So if you haven't gotten your orders in, please do so. Like I said, I will be mailing them out every Friday. And once this batch of 400 books is done, we will be ordering another batch. They do come in paperback, which I have right now. If you want hardback, please request that. Let me know. It may be a little bit longer because I don't have any of those right now, but we could certainly add those to our next batch of books that we get. So check that out, everybody. I hope you enjoy them as much as I do, because these books really are a national treasure, as is Field. So that should be on the wall. And I think that's it for my announcements. But yes, everybody, please be careful who you listen to, who you follow. I'll give you a rundown of the shows this week, just because it didn't come out this morning. So tomorrow we have Jackson Lemire. He is with the Faith Council at the White House. He created Pastors for Trump. So he will be over. I'm trying to get him over here on Telegram to do the show, so you guys can maybe ask some questions about his story, and how he got to where he's at in the White House, and how he created Pastors for Trump, because I think that's super cool. But if not, it may just be he and I on YouTube, or I don't know. We'll figure some out, but you guys will know as I know. Also, too, we have Carrie Kasem. She'll be here on Wednesday at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We'll have Rick Anson from Brain IQ. He will be here at 12 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And then we'll have Silk from the Diamond and Silk Show over on X at 9 p.m. And this one will be a really good one, because remember, everybody, the movie Pardon Me, the Bevelyn Williams story is coming out on Friday. So I know they're having a big to-do on Thursday. So come on over to X, check her out, and listen to what she has to say. I saw a little clip of her in the movie, and it's super. I'm just super excited for her. She did a great job. So, and then I am trying to get Bevelyn Williams back on. She's super busy with the premiere coming out this week. I was invited to go to the premiere, but unfortunately, just short notice, I wasn't able to get there. But I am going to get her on, whether it be, it's probably going to be after the movie, but it doesn't matter. We need to help get eyes on this movie, because we're back to the Sound of Freedom days, right? Where nobody wanted to put it in the theaters. So she's right now calling on churches or any big venues that have the ability to show the movie with a projector or what have you. They're going to give the movie to these individuals. So if you know of anybody that's like that, please let me know. I will pass that information on to Bevelyn, because again, they are still going to try to get it into the movie theaters, but it has been a struggle. So with that, everybody, Derek is in the house. That is the weekly shows for this week. We're gonna have a great week next week. But what's up, Derek? How are you?
Well, it's looking like bad weather where I am, so I may be rubber banding here soon. You just never know, but it's they they've
That seems to
definitely
be that seems to be the nature of our business these days, rubber banding, right?
well, it's I was talking to a guy in New York that I go on podcasts with that I've been seeing lightning that looks a little bit more like real lightning, but I don't care real or fake. I don't like it either way. But
So where are you? Well, yeah, you don't have to tell me if you don't want to, but where are you at? Are you in Alabama? Or are you out traveling again?
no, I'm in Alabama at the moment. So, uh, but it's just a lot of storms lately. A lot of storms.
Pass it this way to Arizona. Okay, so what I've been noticing here, it's just I've been waking up the last few days, and the sky's normally blue, right? Really blue skies. It's been so hazy, and we're thinking, okay, there's a haboob coming in. No, no haboob. It's been the weirdest thing, but yeah, I want some of that rain. So that rain, thunder, lightning, bring it on. It's too hot over here. It was supposed to be 117 degrees here yesterday, guys, and yeah, that's insanity.
Yeah, it's hot. It's definitely hot. All that heat and cool air mixing. But I know people get all into the. I mean, weather modification was real, but people also forget that weather does exist. They just were moving the clouds and the wind around that made it. So we're still going to have wind and rain and storms. It's just not supposed to be as many and as much as we've had in the last, uh, 20, 30, 40, 50 years. Uh, it's just, they're supposed to be rare more than, oh, another hurricane. Oh, boy. Uh,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's off the charts, man. It's just wild out there. Um, so Derek, talk to us. I let the audience know that obviously I'm sure you want to talk a bit about some things that that's going on that you're seeing, but hopefully we'll get to some Q&A because there is so much going on, and with what happened today with Trump and his speech at the White House today, taking DC over. However, we know it's already been occupied, right? So, but a lot of people are. I've been watching Fox News today in between my podcasts, and they're just making it changing the narrative, right? So, you have all these people out there just they're like the mayor just of DC going against it, and so yeah, I'd like for you to maybe kind of touch on that. Did you watch it this morning? His speech?
I saw bits and pieces, but I mean, it's kind of, I think that's when once people get to know me and my personality, and then uh, what official capacity means. And then, you know, sometimes I seem like a hard ass, and sometimes I seem like a, real too direct, too straightforward. But once people do finally consume, even if you're a civilian, doesn't matter. You can know this stuff. You're supposed to know this stuff, whether you were military or not. You can still know it. But once people consume what you've been watching, and I know people get tired. I do. I get tired of the same word too. That you're watching a movie, but it's a military operation. Now, there's two ways to split the hairs. I don't like splitting hairs. My dad has that saying, all right, now you're splitting hairs. So that means, well, you're just making excuses, and or you're adding just too many layers to the story when you don't need to, if no one's ever heard that slogan. Well, there is two legitimate ways to split the hairs of what people have been watching. One, if you don't know laws and orders. I mean, I was coined for saying this, and now there's all kinds of data when you get on Google, but the average that you can see based on how they'd be able to total this, 68% of America can't even name the three branches of government. Just name them. Just if you just walk up to someone random on the street, say, what are the three branches of government? Just name them. Don't tell who they are, what they do, their functions, operations, etc. Just name the three. 68%. Well, that's 68% of 347 million people. That's well over half. So you split 347 in half and then add a little bit over that. Well, most of those people, and there's no way to know this because there won't be a poll on this, but if you went up to those group who can't name them, do you like President Trump or not? A whopping majority of them are going to say no. So how can you have an opinion on someone when you don't even know how your own government functions? You can't even name the three branches of government. So it's our founders made it to where everybody, every person with a brain capable of talking, thinking, and applying is supposed to be a part of the legislation process because legislators represent us. It's not been that way the last 150 years. You could really make that argument, but since we're all in here probably 40 years old to 80, Maybe some older in here. If you are, then you're hip and welcome because you know how to use technology. So we're all mainly in that 35 to 80-year-old bracket in this listening. So you only need to go back to your lifetime when you can remember things, when you remember what president that you can first remember when you were a kid. Every detail of that. Now, President Trump's had to be delicate because of veterans. Every veteran, when they served during a time period that maybe they knew, maybe they didn't, that these were all man-made wars. So you do have to be delicate with it because now we have suicide rates that are astronomical with military alone. And then like people like Ronald Reagan, was he personally a bad guy? No. But was he in the swamp? Yes, because he was surrounded by it. All right. And a lot of these people thought when they got into office, they could do something better for humanity. Some of them did, and they couldn't because they were overtaken by the whole swamp. And so everybody can know what's going on. So what they're doing is they got to play this slow because look at the Americans who can't even name the three branches of government. So they're definitely not going to believe a guy who's a retired veteran straight up just telling laws and orders because they don't know the laws and orders. They don't know how to apply the laws and orders. They don't know how to apply the strategies, tactics. And then your liberals out there, they don't even respect the military at all, period. Oh, they want their First Amendment. And the only thing that allows them that First Amendment is the freedom to do so. It's like I tell people all the time, you're only as free as your surroundings allow you to be. Well, guess who does that? Military. Whether you see it or not, doesn't matter. It's always there. So just because you can't see something doesn't mean it's not there. Just because you can't comprehend it doesn't make it less true. So if everybody would read the blueprint of what I've put together, it's not mine. It is intellectually, but it's not when it comes to public laws. It outlines a blueprint that President Trump's working with. And he was only able to do this with the military laws, with the military orders, with all of the pairings and the secretive, so your unconventional warfare, irregular warfare, and then all your tactics that go with that. And there's multiple layers of tactics that are all lawful, and it's outlined before our Constitution. Our military came before the Constitution. And even Abraham Lincoln, who is thought to be, even from Democrats, is thought to be a great president. Well, he said the Declaration of Independence was more important because that's what brought birth to the Constitution. The Constitution doesn't affect you and I as a natural citizen. It doesn't. But it does from the standpoint that's what we guide our representatives with to make sure they're doing what they're supposed to be doing. So the Constitution being spoken by a liberal, they're saying, oh, Donald Trump's a violation. Where and how? They can't even quote from it. So you got to know those first. And then, like this DC stuff, first off, DC's been a ghost town. Anybody who's been there has been a ghost town. The federal buildings have been empty. All right. President Trump told everybody, they told me I've been to DC about 17 times. So he's been at Mar-a-Lago. He's been at Trump Tower. Also, this goes into your continuity guide from January the 1st, 2021, which was called the Reconstitution of the Executive Branch, Section 2.3 in that publication, which was one of many publications under your Federal Continuity Directive 1 and 2. This is one of the publications under those. All right. Well, in there it says 2.3. It says when the Congress cannot establish Washington, D.C. as the seat of government, Congress and their enumerated powers will get with the states and establish a new seat of government. Well, that's mighty powerful. Now, they could keep the capital there in D.C., but that also shows you the capital can be moved. That D.C. is not permanent. Now, it's going to depend on what they decide. President Trump spoke today more or less that he was talking about a restaurant and how he said, my dad always told me if you walk to a restaurant, the door is dirty on the front, the kitchen's going to be dirty. Well, he was saying the door on the Capitol building, well, what's behind it is dirty. All right. So it's all of this is more of a metaphor and analogies of it's already been cleaned out. But see, that's a role. I just put this post up right before I came on. I just put the post up, another military action by a president, but a commander in chief. Now, the commander in chief of the District of Columbia has direct command over the National Guard. There's no one goes between him and the National Guard, President Trump. So he has direct command over the National Guard. Direct. So it's another command showing that, like I said, if you're a Republican, conservative, patriot, whatever you call yourself, all the above, whatever, then if you can believe in that action, then you have to believe in all the other military actions that he's taken. This don't require Title 10 because he's the direct commander over them. All the other actions that I've outlined are Title 10 authority, which is presidential authority. Well, there's various forms of presidential call-ups. You have your National Guard call-up. You have your reserve components. And you know, when you, a reserve, people get confused with that. But you can be active duty, and every active duty, when you sign a contract, especially if you're enlisted, you sign a contract, it has an 8-year reserve clause on the back end of it. So what they tell you, and this sounds funny, sorry if it sounds like it's fat shaming. I'm not. I wouldn't care anyway. But like Headset says, get in shape or shut up, especially military. But what they tell you is like, look, when you get out, if you ETS out, you don't retire out or anything of that nature, they tell every soldier, don't go home and get fat and happy on the couch, because if you're called back, that reserve clause is that's there for. And every soldier that signs an enlisted contract signs an 8-year contract on top of when you get out. So if you did 4 years and get out, which there's not a 4-year contract. So if you do 3 years and 2 months, 3 years, 6 months, or 3 years, 8 months, when you get out, there's an 8-year reserve clause if it's not canceled. Like if you didn't retire or whatever it may be, even certain medicals, they'll cancel that. So if you didn't have that 8-year clause is there, and they tell them, don't go home, get fat and happy and out of shape, because if you're called back, you're going to have to abide by this, and you'll still be under the Uniform Code of Military Justice. So that's why soldiers out there, you'll hear them, oh, I didn't want to do it, I didn't want to go, especially during the first deployments of Iraq, way back in the early 2000s. They were so, I didn't sign up to go to war. What'd you sign up for? Oh, yeah, that's right. Benefits, medical, dental, housing, stability, college. Yeah, the military industrial complex. See, and so that reserve clause is something even completely, it don't always happen, but it can. So if you can justify, or if you're like happy, oh yeah, go get them, clean out DC. Well, then if you can be for that, you got to be for everything else. So it's another military action that people have seen come to fruition. Now everything's amping up everywhere. So that's going on. And then you got quote unquote Hunter Biden having these new interviews, and he's bringing the whole castle down, especially if you have the Biden Report laptop book. So all this stuff, they brought Obama back into the picture. They've got Hillary saying stuff again. So they're bringing everybody back to the picture. Now, some people will say, well, I've seen them on social media. No, you haven't. You haven't seen them in official capacity. If they were able to roam freely, say what they want to say, do what they want to do, they would be annihilating President Trump with gaslighting, false information, everything else. And they haven't been. When you watch them and you know what's going on, you can see this is real strategic, because they're not saying a whole lot of stuff. But when they do, it's not even about Russiagate. It's not defending their quote unquote legacy, right? So they're bringing all this back to the forefront. So it's amping up. It's increasing. John Solomon was posting on Truth today or yesterday about how they got a team of people going to look at the auto pen, and they got a team of people going to look at the pardons. And, oh, there's no way that Biden could have signed these when he's would have been in his wrong mind. Well, let me show you really fast. Well, yes, he could have if he was real. See, you can't go back in hindsight 2020 something and say, oh, well, these executive orders and all this stuff he signed was fraudulent. No, if they didn't go through the lawful process during the time period, at that time period, then if he would have been real and they didn't go through the lawful process to impeach him at that time period, it wouldn't matter. So, see, they're showing you, they're amping up, they're increasing to be I've always said it, history's going to account for the dash. This is a strategic operation. It's a special operation. And even my dad, I was sitting at dinner with him earlier, and I said, hey, did Grandpa ever talk about the puppet governments with you? Because my grandpa, his dad would have been in his, he'd have been in his 30s during the puppet governments when they were last used, the puppet states, puppet governments in the 40s. And he didn't really a whole lot. It was my other grandfather and it was my other great uncles who talked about those a lot because they served during that time period. My grandfather on my dad's side was a merchant marine, which still should be recognized for their service. And President Trump started recognizing the merchant marines a lot more. But see, the men who are qualified to talk about puppet governments and the government in exile and when they happened in the 40s, they're all in the graveyard. My grandfather's one of them. All my great uncles, they're all passed. And anyone who's 95 to 100 years old that's living right now, whether they can articulate it and then tell about it and remember everything, it's not there. So it requires same thing with history. My grandfather passed that to me. I remembered it. I retained it. Then I studied everything around it, and I'm able to tell you what you're watching. That's what you're watching. It sounds far-fetched at first, sure, to the average person, but when you go read it, study it, and know these are tactics, strategies, and lawful, and how they pair with military and federal, it's all there. And so that's what everybody's watching. Now, there's a lot of stuff happening. They're hitting you everywhere, but the Obama, Hillary. I mean, look at Michelle. Everybody likes to call her Big Mike, call him Big Mike and all that. So let's have a little fun with it. Well, we know that Big Mike, Michelle's always been about her man. She's one of those that uses that slang. That's my man. Don't talk about my man, my man, my man. Well, why is the last post by Michelle June the 19th on X? Now think about this. Obama has 130,400,000 followers on X alone. Michelle has 21.5 million. When you combine those, as of right now, if they haven't increased any, that's 151,900,000 people. The current population of the U.S. right now, as we speak, is 347 million right in there. So between Obama and Michelle, that's 46, right at 47% of population. Just those two alone. And if his legacy was being, don't you think the gaslighter in chief, the man who was the most gaslighting person in his speeches, all his speeches were geared towards gaslighting. Don't you think that he, Michelle, Comey, Hillary, don't you think they would be addressing this Russiagate stuff that's already hit the waves? Anybody who says no is a dang fool. Because when you know their history, and they were always talkers, they were always gaslighters, that's what they did all during the past that we've all lived through, was mudslinging. It was back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. True or not, doesn't matter. It was back and forth, back and forth. You're not seeing that. You're not seeing that at all. They're talking about redistricting. Obama's last post was about redistricting in the state of Texas. All right. So they're showing you these, they're amping it up. They're bringing them back into the picture. They're bringing them back. But then, you know, the Supreme Court docket case, 23-939, that one alone that brings in Obama tied to murder. I mean, it tells you right in there, any military officer who carried out these orders was murdered. Well, the last time a president and SEAL Team 6 was involved with any military operation was Obama and Osama bin Laden. Well, in the Biden laptop report book, guess what is confirmed in there? So I know the Hunter Biden they showed is two different hunters in both different interviews. Two different. They're actors. And it's perfect to teach people how to separate your feelings and emotions and watch the whole video through, because at the very beginning, he's trashing Trump. But then as it plays through, at the very end, he goes, well, to be fair, if President Trump, he don't call him by president, he calls him Trump, but he says, to be fair, if he isn't guilty, then I have to be able to be open to say that, because not everybody around Epstein, he said if they were all around him and they were all guilty, then there's a lot of people that were good people who are going down. So see, you got to listen to the whole thing. And what they're doing is tying this all in, because in the first new interview, July 21st, 2025, just a couple weeks ago, in that interview, the host said, we're going to talk about the laptop. We're going to talk about this, and that. Well, they brought in Rudy Giuliani. In the Biden laptop report book, it shows John Paul Mac Isaac, the guy who had the computer. All right. Hunter left it at his shop. He took it to the FBI. And then from there, a copy was given to Rudy Giuliani and another guy named Bob Costello. Well, who is Rudy Giuliani besides the most popular mayor in history? He was President Trump's attorney, one of them. So what is Rudy Giuliani getting a copy of it for? Well, then he's the one that takes it to whom? This Marco Polo research group who put this book together, 636 pages, top to bottom. And it ties in Obama, Joe, Hillary, Bill, etc., to Serbia, Mexico, Kazakhstan, Libya, China. And it shows the text messages with the big guy. And when President Trump on the debate, you're the big guy. We think you're the big guy, Joe. You're the big guy. All the text messages are there. It ties all of them into sex trafficking, human trafficking, drug trafficking, prostitution, and also within the family, in the family, all kinds of stuff. The photos in there are bleeped out. I wouldn't recommend anyone under 17 to see it, but still, all the photos. There's Hunter, and in the second interview, he's talking about sex trafficking. He's talking about Epstein. He's talking about them video and children, and he's got multiple videos, multiple photos confirmed on his laptop, and they sit there and confirm that Rudy Giuliani had the laptop, and they confirm the laptop is true and real. So see, it's a mirror politics. It's a mirror, meaning he's sitting there admitting the whole video, and it's like a mirror, and it's making it sound like Trump and all these other people did it, but he's sitting there saying exactly what he did. Kind of like any of you out there, you've probably been accused of something in your life out of the blue, and you're like, what are they doing accusing me? And normally when someone does that, it's the very thing they did, and it's a projection. So this whole video with quote unquote Hunter on the second one, which was August the 5th, it ties in everything. He sits there and talks about, so you're telling me that we had the ammo to go after President Trump in 2016 and we didn't, but we did it when he was president and when my dad was president, and we didn't do it again in 2024. He's sitting there telling you election interference. They're sitting there. It's all a projection. And it's like I tell people, see, this is the military portion. And if you struggle with it, God love you, God help you. That's what I'm here for, but you got to just keep working at it. What they've done is they trapped the deep state. They funneled them. They took them to a wall. And when they all got to each of their walls, wherever they were in their lives, they had to do what? Throw the white flag of surrender up. Some of this was plea bargains as well. Some of this was them looking like it's them in real life. This is all unconventional warfare. It's all irregular warfare. It's all strategic and tactics. And so it looks real time to some people who have to see it that way. But if you're tired of that and you want to know the strategic part, you want to know the unconventional, it's all in laws and orders. It's all lawful. And military came before federal. So therefore, it's even more lawful. And it's the only way President Trump could drain the swamp from the top to the bottom. And so many people who are still going, well, when are we going to see arrests? When you're trying to get to the birthday party, you're not willing to go through the preparation to get to the birthday party. You just want the party. And you're also the person who wants to leave the party and do what? Not help clean up the party and not say thank you to the host and let me help you if I can. Can I clean up anything? Can I take something back? You just want the party. You don't want to see what's going to maintain and sustain this. And President Trump, they just put a post up. He did just this past week. It's like Lieutenant Colonel Bosey says that special operations is always 2 and 3 and 5 years ahead of everybody. I'm always ahead of President Trump, not because trying to get credit over him, but it's because it's a military operation. All right. And there's certain people out here, we're put where we're put to do what we're doing. And if you want to know, you can. But he just put a post up about maintaining and sustaining. We got to maintain and sustain this on the flip side. And it was all talking about 2029. What's going to happen after 2029? Will they be able to do this? And President Trump shared this. It was an article that someone wrote, and it was perfectly written. And it said, what should happen on day one? And it's exactly what I've been saying for all these last few years now. We got to maintain and sustain. And they said on day one, they should take every single one of President Trump's executive orders and make it one giant bill, which would make it one giant act. All right. So they're showing you these things. So it depends on what hair you want to hang on to. If you want to see things in real time, well, you got it. But it ain't real time. It's all having to be real time for the people in the normal world out there who are working hard, working jobs, got family, got kids. You know, the time they get home from a 2 or 3 day, a 2 or 3 jobs that they're having to work, some people, time they get home, time they get their shower, time they eat, time they sit down on the couch, they got to go to the bed. All right. So it's really for a lot of those. And the other side, though, is if you're capable, then this is exactly what's going on lawfully. And what they'll do in history, they will account for that dash. President Trump ain't going down in history as just cleaning out the swamp and cleaning it out for the people who are internal and not external. Because the internal, when you look at the population, the internal will clog up again really quick because it's always people from the external who's getting the jobs as senators, congressmen, local representatives. And those are the ones who work their way up. So if we don't educate the public on laws and orders, but also what Americans are supposed to know, then it would clog right back up quick. So for the meantime, they're having to show people certain things until they can grasp, oh, what is an executive order and what is this and what is that? So it's really, uh, without being too condescending, but you kind of have to in a general kind of way, it's really showing how uneducated Americans are, and they think they're educated. A lot of Americans think they're educated, and they might be on their job, but they're not on what they're supposed to know as a civilian. So in one way, it's kind of like COVID. Oh boy, y'all want to go back to that? You want to go back to 2020? I don't. But look at all the people who took the vaccine simply because they were guilted or said, "Oh, well, my boss made me take it." No, you failed the test. You failed, and you made all the commanders go, "God, this is how easy they are to be led down the wrong path," because it was a test for everybody to stand up and stand up to your boss and stand up to your employers. If you've ever watched the movie Rudy, 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 Rudy Rudiger, he was a walk-on at Notre Dame, and Rudy showed up to practice every day, went out there, walked on, showed up, showed up. Well, his last year, senior year, he goes up to the little roster there. He looks on the roster. His name wasn't on it to dress out. And he got all mad. He quit. And then he had two people talk to him about, hey, I think you ought to come back and blah, blah, blah. Man, you put all this time in, you put this work in. Well, he finally, they were on the sideline in the game, last game of the season, last game of everything. And one of his buddies in the crowd started chanting, Rudy, Rudy. And the crowd just, oh, man, who is Rudy? And everybody just chimed in, Rudy, Rudy. And by the whole stadium was chanting. And then one of the assistant coaches looked over at the head coach and he goes, why won't you put him in? And he shook his head like, let him go. The last play of the whole game, Rudy makes the tackle on the starting quarterback. Now, they had already won the game. The game was already over. It wasn't like it was a unnecessary tackle. But see, that's the stuff that people need to hear. People need to see that. People need to know this. And so it's like what do you want to watch? What side of the game? What do you want to watch? What side of the movie you want to watch? So a lot of people are just lost and don't have to be and don't need to be. And everybody needs to have like that spirit about them that, hey, you're watching the most biblical, monumental, historical operation known to man. I mean, it truly is. And for me, I do sound sometimes, I hear how I sound. I do hear myself, but it's because I'm like, I just want to shape people and go, do you not understand what you're watching? This is freaking awesome. Even as a veteran, even as someone who's been boots and soldier, this is freaking awesome. And if you love President Trump, why don't you want to know what he's using? It's more of like this passionate and but also trying to be compassionate, going, gosh, it's right here. This is it. You don't need to know all these other things. You need to know what the commander's working with. So like 2020, if I was a commander sitting up there in the command room, I'm like, God, these amount of people get shamed and guilted into a something that wasn't even well studied, didn't even sit back. I mean, just ran down there. Oh, health, I'm going to die. Oh, God, the world's falling on me. Well, that's what we're trying to say. Look, you're going to die anyway. You ain't read the Bible? Have you ever looked around? I'm sitting right now looking at a graveyard right now in the middle of nowhere. And they're all in the 1800s, 1700s. They all live their life in the ground. No telling what they're doing. Where they are. What's it look like on the other side? Who cares? It doesn't matter. We all got to do it. But until God says it's time for you to go, no. The Bible says to fight. To what? It says to dwell and to do what he commanded you to do. So look at all the people who failed the test in 2020. No, you didn't have to take that. No, you didn't have to. And no, your boss and whoever, mandatory, compulsory, decree, all these different titles. Nope, not a law. Sorry, you failed the test. So see, so many people, if they knew the laws and the orders of what you're supposed to know, that's why our Declaration of Independence is so important. It tells you. But when a long train of usurpations and then abuses. And then it says, when they become destructive of these ends, it is what? It is their right and it is their duty to do what? Overthrow such government that goes against the foundation. Whoa, That's been the last 150 years. And look at all of our people, my people, your people, everybody. No one's exempt from it. Look at all. Now, it may not have been your exact grandpa like mine, or your exact mother, or your exact daddy, but people. People let this country get driven right into the ground by corruption and corrupt politicians who did nothing but create a problem they had solutions to. And they conquered and divided. And people like me, I don't care if you're gay or Buddhist or this or that. Now the Supreme Court's going to they're going to look uh, up the same-sex marriage and all that again. But that's because you can't alienate everybody, like in another kind of way. A lot of these things that they voted on shouldn't even just be there. If you want to, you're gay and you want to go live with each other or whatever it is you want to do, then do that. But same thing like heterosexuals, you don't walk around making out in the movie theater. If you do, I don't even like when people kiss in public. I mean, it depends on what it looks like, but but at the same time, I'm like, hey, that ain't necessary, right? If you love each other so much, then go behind closed doors.
Get a room.
You know what I mean? Like nobody, like we got to have some common sense about the stuff. Like the same thing. Like I don't want to see you making out. Nobody does, you know. So it's like there's things that never should have been in law that we allowed. But here's what happens when you put something in law, whether it be local, state, or federal, then it becomes what? It becomes up for interpretation. And then when it becomes up for interpretation, what does that do? That leads to your fights and your arguments and even sometimes killing when it may not even need to be there. Like, I mean, I drive by houses every day, never been in them. I've seen them my whole life. Don't know what's behind those doors. They could have a ton of cocaine in there. They can have a ton of marijuana in there. Would never know it. You know, now, good, bad, indifferent, who knows? But there's people, gay marriages, gay this. No one would ever know it because they might be minding their business doing what they're supposed to be doing. And if they're not hurting or harming somebody, then sometimes it's just that old Hank Williams song. If you mind your own business, you won't be minding mine, right? So if everybody will practice that, make that reciprocal again, then it will work better. And if there is a crime, if there is something that needs to be reported, if there is something, then we have to identify that, the punishment levels, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And we have that. We have things that we deem in society as, oh, that's punishment on this level, and this, and this, and this, all the way up. And so what they're doing is they've cleaned out the legislative branch. That's what 2017 to 2021 was. 2021 to 2025 was the resetting of the executive. And now you're watching the judicial. Why is everything Supreme Court this, Supreme Court that, appeals court this, appeals court that, district court this, district court that, court, judge. And so something as simple as this that people keep overlooking, this is as simple as it gets. The tariffs. If the tariffs were destructive to the economy, if they were, they're disguised and they're going over on the American people's paychecks and they don't even know it, like the liberals say, then, okay, we'll set that aside. Now, I know Joe Biden wasn't real by laws and orders, but also military tactics and strategies that were used many years ago, and you're seeing it in another kind of way repeat itself in a good way. But I'll play devil's advocate for a moment. Let's just say old Joe was real for a moment. Well, then, if Joe was real and tariffs are bad, but now you're judging the tariffs over here in 2025, when the tariffs were put into place in 2018, then explain why Joe Biden never terminated one single tariff, and they're all presidential authority. That's the trade acts of 62 and 74. It's all presidential. So from 2021 to 2025, now it has nothing to do with Congress, but just for the sake of, just a little cherry on top, from 2021 to 2023, it was displayed that the president was Democrat, Vice President Democrat, House Representatives Democrat, and Senate Democrat. So they couldn't revoke or repeal anything by President Trump, especially the war orders. All these things were handed right back to him January the 20th, 2025. All the executive orders with national emergencies, but then also the tariffs. And not one single judge from 2021 to 2025, not one judge, not an Obama-appointed judge, not a Clinton-appointed judge or a Bush, both Bushes. There's only one judge left, I think, out of Bush Sr. that's still up there, 80-something years old. Not one of them tried to block a tariff. So the tariffs can't be bad. And if old Joe was real and he continued those, then Joe is part of the problem as well. And we know that. So then you got to do what? Well, is President Trump the problem? No. because all these orders that I've shown that are making these trade deals and peace deals, all these wars that have been ended, Syria, we're now in trade with Syria. We were in war with them way back. And then also we have Lebanon left on the board, and there's a few that President Trump's still going to end, but we just had the Armenian agreement. I mean, all these things. So now you gotta split hairs again. So either President Trump is a part of them and they're all corrupt, but it can't be that way because all these things he's done are great and it's helping everything. The tariffs are bringing in money and gold. And he said today gold won't be tariffed. So all these things. So see, that's a separation. Then it does separate, and then you have your formula. Then you have your 45-47, because you can't put those in the same boat. They're not the same boat. The laws and orders show that. And so many people are still just stressing out and freaking out and listening to stuff. I just call it the ones that blow smoke up your dress. There's just so many mouths out there moving, so many lips out there moving, so many people want a name and a face and popularity. And I'm saying, hey, I know you think that I may be a popular person or that, but I'm military. All right, this is a military operation. And it was only able to be done by the military laws, not federal alone. You had to have that extra layer that says we don't need the federal government if they don't want to be a part of this. That's why President Trump, his Supreme Court docket say what? Donald J. Trump versus who? The United States government. So he's always showing you. When COVID took place, all those press conferences, he said one key thing that shows people that he was not for the vaccine. Two different press conferences. One was on March the 30th. The other was April the 8th, I believe. The first one, he specifically said hydroxychloroquine and chloroquine has been administered. He said we have India who's provided millions of doses along with ours. We have stockpiles of it. We have stockpiles of hydroxychloroquine, chloroquine. He said now use the Z-Pack when your heart can handle it, because it does have some impacts on people's hearts. But he said chloroquine and hydroxychloroquine. He specifically said we have administered, now listen to the terminology. This is where people struggle. He said he's speaking from the military, we have administered these doses to the whom? The governors, the United States government, mayors, hospitals. So he's sitting there saying we have administered to the United States government. Why didn't he just say we as the government are doing this and then we've administered it? See, that's why terminology matters. Then on April the 8th, his other press conferences, he said, please just try. See, if a president ever tells you to do one thing, then he alienates a certain group. So if he told you to take a certain thing and that only, and everybody went and took that, and then they all died, then what are they going to do? The people behind it, it's your fault. But if he didn't tell you to do something, then what are people going to do when people die? Well, you didn't tell us what to do. No, that's not his role. He is the chief executive officer of the executive branch. Now, he is to protect his people, but he has certain limitations on that by law. And all throughout 2019, if you'll remember, ladies, especially we all know if we can be judgmental for a brief moment, most of these women at these rallies they showed through 2019 were not pretty at all. It's like my uncle used to say, they can make a freight train take a dirt road. All right, meaning that jump the track and take a hard right turn. They're that ugly. All right, there was these women. Remember, they were wearing the JJ suits, the hoo-has. Y'all know your private area. Sorry, that's as far as I'm going to go. Right, I call it the hoo-ha. Right, they were wearing these suits, body suits that looked like the hoo-ha. And they had their little signs, my body, my choice, my body. That was 2019. Before what? That was before COVID. Then you jump into COVID just a few months later. It's your fault, President Trump. People are dying. It's your fault. Your fault. No, it's your body, your choice. You got to make that decision, and you get to live with it. All right. So that one press conference, he said, would you just try hydroxychloroquine and chloroquine? He didn't say this is the ticket, meaning like you got to do that. No, he said it delicately. And then he also said one pharmaceutical, and this is how he said it. He said Johnson & Johnson is supposed to be working on a vaccine, but it won't be ready for another 14 to 16 months. What did Johnson & Johnson do? They violated authority, military authority. See, this is why you got to know military laws, the Uniform Code of Military Justice. You got to know military laws. You got to know what a wartime president is because of that terminology we have administered to the United States government. We have administered. They were speaking from the military. And when Johnson & Johnson released that vaccine before that 14 to 16 month period, which was their vaccine, not his combination, which was hydroxychloroquine, chloroquine, and the Z-Pack, and zinc, and some of the other things that he said he took, then they violated military authority. And guess who was hammered right before that? They were hammered. See, this shows you operation. They were hammered in 2019 in the state of Oklahoma in a court case, an opioids case. They were forced to pay $572 million. Now, what are the odds of that? If I came up to one of you, I don't have that kind of money, but if I did, if I came up to you and I just randomly said, hey, I'm going to give you $572, you're like, for what? I'm like, and you go like, where did he get the number 572 from? Why couldn't he just round that up 600? Or why couldn't he be gracious and round that up? Or why did he give me 572? What? Just think of that. Not 550, not 600, 572. I just come up with some random number. Here you go. Here's your $572. You're gonna be like, what? This is weird. So what are the odds that Johnson & Johnson loses a court case in August 2019, the same month that the Army and mainstream media are telling you that the Army is training 26 of our 31 brigades for underground subterranean warfare? And guess how much money they were spending? $572 million. So those are found in our Army publications, $572 million. And then Johnson & Johnson, who went against military orders after this, they went against it after they were hammered with the opioids. So see, it's a takedown. This is all strategic, all operational. But then COVID was a retaliation by the deep state. See, health is one big thing. You cannot prove a lot of things. Everybody has their own methods and remedies, and some of it works. Native American medicinal practices, etc. Some of it, yeah, it's good. But health is one of those things that normally most people study on their own and or close friends. But then when it turns awry, when it's something that scares you, like cancer or some disease, then you get scared, right? Some people do, and that's natural. It's natural to get scared, but that's when you got to really know who you can trust. But especially in a military operation. And then President Trump, they already knew this, because if you go back to 2018, there's a bio defense strategy. 2018, put out by the military and our Defense Department, and it reads word for word what everybody witnessed and watched in 2020. They knew this was coming. Fauci stood there in Georgetown University 10 days before President Trump took his famous oath. 10 days, he said, we guarantee that this next administration in a few years will have a serious outbreak. How did they know that? So see, it was showing you this, that it was just showing you that the deep state already knew. They already knew they'd been taken over. And this is not real time, again, not this portion of it. So see, that's why people need to realize what a military occupation is. It doesn't mean that certain things, the actions that are going on the bigger levels, not taking place, but they're delayed because they've already been taking place. So real quick before we get to a question or something, but like DC, if DC was as dirty as President Trump says it is, then he would already tackle that long before now in another kind of manner, because the military's been active all over the nation. Now, what people have a problem with is they hear someone like me say that and they don't hear everything else around it. And then they'll say, well, Derek Johnson says that Donald Trump said that. No, I didn't say he's a liar. I didn't say he's not telling the truth. You got to hear what I'm saying. You got to know everything around it. Everything that's taking place in D.C. has already been taken care of. They've already had all the big buildings and all the scaffolds and all these different things around the Capitol and all that stuff they showed you way back. And then they showed people that the streets were empty. And I mean, they have shown this over and over. So see, if you're awake, then it ain't for you. And you shouldn't be reacting if you're awake. And if you know what I know, you shouldn't be reacting at all. You should be going up. The normies are getting their dose today. Open your mouths up. Here comes the Robitussin. All right, here you go. Beep. Like the little birds in the nest. Open your mouths up. Same thing they did in COVID. Here you go. Roll up your sleeve. Beep. It's the same mentality. And it just shows you how sad our general population is that we have to drag this out. And it's unfortunate for President Trump in other ways, even though this time around in history it's going to be exonerated. But as you go through it, you do have to still have that strong mentality that, hey, you see in your name, it's never fun to see your name drove down through anything, no matter what you're going through, and no matter how tough you are. It sucks to know that you got to go through that to get to the other side. But he does know he will be exonerated. But in the meantime, getting to that, look at all the people. It took 5 years. It's like on average 5 years for all this stuff to come out about Comey and Brennan and all. I mean, and so now this is another time in history. It's not going to end in another a scandal and it didn't get this and they didn't do that and they didn't punish anybody. But the people who are considered to be patriots, if you consider yourself that, but you're still upset because you haven't seen an arrest or something like that, you still are proving that you're not completely a patriot. You're on that fence. And because you hadn't seen anything on your time, you got to remember, this ain't on your time. This is a top to bottom. And then also, you only know the key players. You only know Obama, and you may know Steele and Brennan and Comey and some of that, but you don't know all the ones way down there that the Clintons had operate for them that no one knew. They're getting everybody, and they've got everybody. And you got to give that time. They've taken out the keys, and then they've replaced them here and there. I mean, I know people who are legit insiders, but they're not military, and they don't even have a clue that they're sitting with some of the actors, because they're really good at this. They're really good at making someone look like they're real. But until you know those tactics and strategies, then you could be fooled yourself. That's why we got to have skilled people. And then moving into the future, AI is not going away. I wish it was, but AI, technology, all these things, especially if you're 60, 70 years old, you're going to have to really sharpen your skills if you're a free operator on your phone, and things, because all this AI is going to change the game, and you're not going to know if people are real. I mean, some of these people look so real, and you're going to have to learn what's real and what isn't. And there's a way to know, but you're going to have to get real tough and real strategic and really critical think from another manner, because we're not leaving it. We're not going away from it, but it's a clean out top to bottom. And that's what everybody's watching. And the Hunter Biden stuff is the tip of the iceberg. And it's really freaking awesome when you go watch them, because he's telling on everybody. And they've already confirmed the laptop. The laptop ties in by Joe. It ties in Obama, Bill, and Hillary. It ties in China, when President Trump called him a Manchurian candidate and all that, and how he received $38 million. He did a press conference that didn't blow up. I have that recorded on my phone, about 4.5 minutes long. Where he was said, my advisors told me not to say this, but I am. And he talked about Brooke Singleton, who was a reporter for Fox, how she broke the story. Well, it hasn't made headlines with everybody out there, even your algorithm whores out there who just love the algorithms. They hadn't even taken this, but it's already confirmed in this laptop that Joe was getting millions of dollars just to make an introduction. Can you imagine? Someone's like, oh, I know Derek Johnson. If you give me $100,000, I'll introduce you to him. Okay. It's like, what? Like, they were getting millions just to make an introduction, not even close a deal or make a deal. But, even if they didn't make a deal, it's like, oh, I know the vice president. Well, it's all in this book. And then the prostitution, Bo. So in the video, it shows where he said, you'll watch in the first video, he go, and even in the second one, they cover it twice. But he goes, the worst day of my life was when I lost my brother Bo. And it shows the casket with a flag on it. Well, when you go read the book, it's already been confirmed. Rudy Giuliani gave it to this group, and they're confirming this laptop in both interviews, all real. And there's photos they use on the video that's only found in the book that you can't find on Google. There's exclusive photos that's only in the book, that's only in this interview. So, and you compare them. They're in the same photos. Well, when you read in there, so the week of his death, Hunter was already sleeping with Bo's widow, his own sister-in-law. Well, then she turned on him because she had discovered that her niece, which would be, her daughter, but his niece, he was in like naked. So he was naked, laying on the couch, and he was watching porn videos, all right, with her there, his own niece, 12 years old. And there's text messages, all kinds of lewd messages. And then he hangs himself He tells on himself in some text messages that they have in the book, where he tells on himself, where he's saying, "Oh, I wouldn't do anything with her," and stuff like that. They think I'm doing this, this, and this just because I watch porn, and I mean, it's all there. And she turned on him. So see, he's the one who brought down the ships, kind of like dumb criminals. And I'll shut up after this one little thing. Criminals are dumb. They do dumb things. They leave traces. So like the people who came after my federal trademark, this is how dumb they are. And there's forensic guys out there now that say, hey, if you're going to commit a crime, go ahead and commit it. Go ahead and be the most whatever it is, because we're so good at forensics now in DNA that you might as well try to pull off the perfect, but also while you do it, be as brutal as possible, because we're going to find you. Well, this person and his accomplices, so they go on the USPTO.gov, which is federal government, and that's a federal trademark, which would be tried in a federal court. And then they try to register for my trademark. Well, when we found out about it, it was later. I put out a post that says, hey, we're aware of a group out there who's tried to register for my federal trademark. I guess you guys didn't read the law where it says first to use, not first to file. And whenever we go to federal court, not only will they do that, but then they're also going to come after all your 401ks or whatever you have and put a judgment on you if you don't have any money. And if you ever make any money, guess where it's coming? To me. All right. And we put all that out. We didn't find this out. This was September. We didn't find out till December. My lawyer sent me a long text and goes, well, if everything was this easy in the court of law and order, which we didn't even have to go to court, but then we wouldn't have a job. So we find out they filed for a letter of abandonment 6 days after I put out the warning. So see how guilty they already knew. Oh, crap. They didn't study the law. They didn't even know that the USPTO.gov even it says that we're not attorneys per se, but we can advise you that it's first to use, not first to file. Well, how we found out and confirms, because I was hoping the guy was being faked. I really hoped that this active duty person was being faked, because I didn't want any kind of soldier to be in this predicament or to be that dumb. Well, so how we found out was when I started researching, I went back on this guy's profile, his personal pages now. He walks by his mailbox. He wants to be all soldier in his uniform, even worse. Got an American flag. He passes by a mailbox, and also in the person videoing it, the house was in there. The exact photo of it was a video of the house. And that video went viral way back 7, 8, 9 years ago. Got 230-something thousand views, something like that, because he was in a uniform and all that. Well, guess what? That address on that mailbox and that house matched to the address on the USPTO.gov. That's how dumb criminals are. That's how dumb they are. And all for fame or fortune or whatever it was they were seeking, whatever that was, their intent and their motives. Well, all of a sudden, you could go from a good person who just wanted some kind of publicity, but you did it the wrong way, the dumb way. And all of a sudden, if I would have been a real complete whatever and taken him to court, which we didn't even have to get to court, JAD squashed it before it ever got there. And they changed the name and did all this other. But see, criminals are dumb. And Hunter left a laptop. Why would he even have this kind of content on his laptop? Which shows even more that they thought they were invincible. And everybody who's ever been around anybody, if you have, like I have and other people throughout time of like Congress, you know the ones who are good, you know the ones who are bad. And you know the ones who are I've seen them at the hunting camps, the ones that let their hair down more, whatever it is, and with their language and stuff. Now, they didn't so much around me because I was a kid. I've been around a lot of congressmen and women. But you heard through the grapevine of others who knew them. And you go, man, don't ever get with them here. Don't ever do this or don't do that or don't do. Same thing with women. Hey, don't get caught along with this person. Don't get caught in an alleyway or a hallway or no cameras. Like, you just learn that by knowing certain people. All right. And so Hunter proves how invincible they thought they were. And he had all this content all over his laptop. And we're talking about, again, it ain't funny, but it's pornography and multiple orgies and all kinds. He didn't discriminate either. There was all kinds of colors and all kinds. But then he's doing some very physical forcement. All right. And the women look like they're battered, looks like their noses are bleeding and all this stuff. And then it shows Joe it shows Joe making a quote somewhere, I mean, it's a quote. He was speaking at Congress on the floor or something about how women who are battered like this, that the perpetrator should be in prison. Doing the same thing his own son was doing back there and putting it on files, having it on his phone and having it on laptop and everything. So Hunter, the dumb Hunter, see, he was not following his dad's footsteps. Now, people could look at this is where you got to get this is what you call critical and strategic thinking. Bo was in a political environment. He was attorney general or whatever it was his title was. He was doing that. He was trying to follow his dad, right? He was in a position. Hunter wasn't. Hunter was using the family name to make business deals and transactions, and some of them didn't even come true. And that's also in the book too. It shows all in the book where he was paranoid that, well, what if we get all these people to put in all this money and then it don't do this and that? So he had to pay some back. It shows all the. I mean, they got everything, every transaction. So
real quickly,
there's,
Derek. Real quickly, Derek, I'm going to tell people, start raising your hands if you guys want to ask Derek a question so I can start unmuting your mics. So sorry about that, Derek. Go ahead and start raising your hands, everybody, if you guys have a question for Derek. Go ahead, Derek.
So Hunter's bringing down the castle that way. And that, though, with him sitting there on this quote unquote interviews, that's not really him. But what they're doing is setting the stage and the table, because the stuff that he's talking about is stuff that ties into Epstein, but it also ties into Joe, Obama, Hillary, Bill. And it's going to bring the cards down that way, because these books have already been confirmed, or the book and the laptop's been confirmed. All that's been confirmed through him and this new interviews. So see, it's setting the stage, and then Obama is starting to refocus. I mean, he's not really with his terminology and his wording, but he's resurfacing again. And then also, Hillary is on a recent little quote unquote interview where she's saying something. So that's all going to resurface. They're all resurfacing. And then all the stuff that you see with the military, and then the partial revocation of the continuity government. So until there's a full revocation, we're still in a military occupation. We're still in that. And laws show this. And the only way President Trump can do what he's doing is in a wartime presidency.
And real quickly, Derek, as we wait for some hands, I've got a couple here. But can you tell the audience too, because there's a lot of people yapping their mouth about the whole Obama and him having immunity, and is he going to plead the fifth? Is he going to testify? Because either way, it's a win-win, right? I mean, if he testifies, he has to tell the truth, right? But he probably won't, or maybe he will. What can you tell the audience that are out there saying he's got immunity, nothing's gonna happen, all that kind of crap while we're waiting for some hands to pop up?
Well, you can't. First off, immunity doesn't overrule treason. All right.
Correct.
So
Correct.
that's so immunity is out the gate when it comes to that. Immunity covers certain things that a president, just like anything else, and the president has to make a certain ruling that he felt may have been at that time period. Him and others. See, everybody wants to just alienate the president always, and there's always others around the president, even though he ends up being the tiebreaker in every situation, or he does what he feels needs to be done in that situation, which goes back to knowing what the legislative branch is supposed to do, the Congress and their authority, and then what the president does. But so immunity is stuff like that. It's kind of like Richard Nixon. Richard Nixon, in all reality, back then should have had immunity on the Watergate. All he did was have a phone call, and they tapped in on his phone call, and they created a scandal around that, because they did what? They made a story around it, a false narrative that wasn't there, and he was just doing what a president was supposed to be doing, and he was one person, the chief executive officer. So that would have been a case where he should have had immunity on that right there and said, hey, look, I'm the commander-in-chief, I'm the president, I had a phone call, as presidents do, you tapped in, you violated, you're not supposed to. So see, they're also going to exonerate him through all this. But Obama would. So when you go to that Supreme Court docket 23-939, they're tying him to murder, because he tried to play on. And this is what's cool about this. I would say cool, but it sucks that we got to this in history. But so Obama so that all of a sudden, this is what proves also this is an occupation and operation. So now you have the Senate, Mike Lee being one of those from the state of Utah. Mike Lee has proposed that national emergencies are now down. They're going to make this proposal after all this. So this is what's genius about what President Trump and them did. They used the law as it's sitting on paper. That's why no one can say you can't do that, because it's all laws and orders on paper. Now, throughout history, historians have said that every president has abused their power with national emergencies. Well, guess what Congress did? Congress made it to where they tried to limit the president. Congress did, not the president. Congress in 1973 tried to limit the president, and they put in the War Powers Resolution that he can declare national emergencies to use the military. So that was them trying to limit the president. Nowhere in our Constitution does it say that. So see, that's why you got to know the Constitution and what they're supposed to do, the legislation, the legislative branch, the Congress. When 73, they changed that. So what President Trump and them are doing is using all the language against them. This is why this is so epic for people. They're using all the literature, laws, and orders on paper against them. Now you're hearing chatter. If you're following what I'm following, you're hearing chatter of all the U.S. Senate, and it's Democrat and Republican, and it's all President Trump's Republicans as well. So they're saying that I've said this too. Anything over 2 years is not a national emergency anymore. It's not an emergency. It may be national, but it's not an emergency. So we've had a national emergencies that run for 45 years. Why? So that was the swamp's what? Quote unquote diplomacy. So President Trump, what they're going to do, they're using all the laws and orders. They're draining the swamp, the global swamp and all that. Then they're going to change those where when you declare a national emergency, you have 30 days for a joint resolution, not 2 years. And then also presidential emergency action documents, which President Eisenhower established with a continuity government. You can't have one without the other. But they're chattering that the president should disclose to the Congress what's in those presidential emergency action documents. Because as of right now, a PED, a presidential emergency action document, is draft classified between the president, a few members that he wants to know, the DOJ, and the FBI. Now, the FBI and the DOJ have been cleaned out, and only you can know that if you know what's been going on lawfully. But see, they're making this chatter to change both of those. So what they're doing is using all the laws and orders right now on paper to drain it and use it against the deep state, and then they're going to change them, which will set the recourse for history for the future where a president cannot abuse those. So then you pull in the Supreme Court docket and you go look at the War Powers Resolution Act. This is why Bannon's people can kiss my you-know-what. Bannon is a piece of trash. Sorry, I may be stepping over here. Jenny, you might not like this, but I'm going to go ahead and lay it on the line. That's a traitor who was in the Navy. When you got people attacking me over Title 50, Chapter 33, Section 1550, that's in the NDAA of 2020. And in the codification, they had to put it in the War Powers Act. President Trump, the Congress had to put it there. They put it in the War Powers Act. But if you look at the codification, it specifically says that 1550 is not permanent. It don't word it that way. It says that this is a part of the NDAA and it's codified here, meaning it's not going to be a permanent amendment to the War Powers Act, which means it's an operation, a strategic operation that President Trump has to use right now. And it's have to be what? It has to be recorded in the War Powers Act. Guess what ain't in the War Powers Act? Obama, you can go to the War Powers Resolution on Wikipedia. It's actually not a bad page to read. It shows where military and federal lawyers, and you can click on the link. It's got the little reference. You can go read about it. Military and federal lawyers had open questions, but also said that Obama violated the War Powers Act when he commanded airstrikes on Libya. All right. Well, then you go read the Supreme Court docket of President Trump's 23-939. Go to the Supreme Court, go to Google, type in Supreme Court, docket search, enter, type in Donald J. Trump, enter, go down, scroll down and find 23-939. Click on that. Scroll all the way down to March 19th. Find the one. There's a few entries for March the 19th, 2024. Find the one that says 3 amici curiae, which are three military officers. Guess who one of them is? Keith Kellogg, General Kellogg, who wrote the most recent and last Department of Defense National Security Strategy that's posted. So in that, it asks the question, can a president order SEAL Team 6 to commit assassination on a political rival? And it says, multiple combat generals, so it says it like this. It says combat generals, plural, and senior level officials, plural, resounding no. Then at the very bottom of that paragraph, it says any military officer who carried out such orders committed murder. Well, the last time President and SEAL Team 6 was involved in any kind of military operation with the President and SEAL Team 6 was Osama bin Laden and Obama. Well, now you go back over to the War Powers Resolution page, and it's saying that Obama carried out airstrikes on Libya. Well, guess what? Well, Libya is also in the Biden laptop report, and it ties all them in that Hunter Biden and Joe were making deals with Libya as well, which will tie in Hillary and Bill, because Hillary was his Secretary of State from 2009 to 2013. She was the one under oath, congressional oath, talking about Benghazi, which is Libya. Well, then you tie in Obama in the Supreme Court docket. That's about Osama bin Laden, which would be Afghanistan and Pakistan. Well, then you come over here to the airstrikes in Libya with Obama and military and federal attorneys saying he violated the War Powers Resolution because his name's not in there. Well, that ties in Gaddafi, who died 5 months after Osama bin Laden. So that brings the whole house of cards down right there. And treason, that's well past treason. That's murder. All right. And so, you know, it goes back to military. When it says combat generals, that means plural. Well, there's about 800 generals that's backing President Trump. So that's where I tell people, if you're willing to go against the military, then you're a pretty dumb person. All right. Because that means the generals, that means colonels, and all the way down. And his name's not in the War Powers Act. And when you hear liberals saying President Trump's violating this, that, and other, they don't even realize how dumb they sound and how dumb they are, because Obama's name is not in the place it's supposed to be. Now, President Trump's name is not in the War Powers Resolution, but his order is December the 20th, 2019. And so Obama, he's toast. All right. And Hillary's toast. They're all toast. So you got to let it play out, because they're not the only ones. You don't want to just take out the top level. You want to get them all. All right. And so that's why it's taking a little time. But dang, I mean, you know, military operates on our time.
Yep. Amen to that. Great explanation. Good job, Derek. All right, everybody, we're going to take some questions. We got about 20 minutes, so I have unmuted a couple hands. For those of you that want to ask Derek a question, please feel free to raise your hand. Now's your chance, everybody. I know you've been requesting it, so here he is. All right, Marilyn, your mic is unmuted. Go ahead. Go ahead, Marilyn. Your mic is unmuted. All right. Layla, is it Layla Kelly? Your mic is unmuted. Go ahead. All right, guys. If you guys don't have questions, this is odd. You guys request the Q&A with Derek. I'm just going to let him keep going for the next 20 minutes. Any of you guys have questions? Go ahead, Leilana. Is it what is it? Leilana? Leilana? All right, Derek. Go ahead and continue to do what you're doing. I apologize.
I mean, it's all right. I mean, I probably answered all their questions, because that's kind of what's prevalent on the menu right now.
Well, you pretty much do. Anytime I get questions written on the board, you do. So very, very possible. But go ahead.
Well, the other thing people need to keep in mind too with all this is that, look, I mean, if you're retired, you got a lot of time on your hands. Go play pickleball. Go do something. Like, live your life. Don't just sit around twiddling your thumbs and just live for this. Go live your life, right? I mean, I told my mother when this first started way back in 2016, I said, Mom, when I get scared, you can get scared. All right. And I'm going to go ahead and tell you right now, I ain't going to be scared, because it's biblical, 1, it's historical, 2, it's monumental, 3, and it's all that. And when you know that, that's why people ask me. I have a friend asked me yesterday, said, you know, if you could go back to your normal life, would you? No, because I'm fulfilling what God called me to do. When I thought that he took me out of the military, I mean, it was chaos. And when all those stories come out, I won't be the only one. When all the stories and all the soldiers get brave on what was going on with Obama and the administration in Syria and Egypt and all these different places, when all the stories come out and all the suicides, when people start talking about the suicides that were taking place, I mean, it was 14 a day. Do you think they reported that? No. So, you know, we had 3 suicide briefings a day. along with all of our other briefings, because people were committing suicide that much, and they didn't report these numbers. Why would they? Because people wouldn't do what? Join. So there's so much stuff going on that this is this is why President Trump is unique. That's why someone like me is so passionate about it, because not only am I fulfilling that, and I'm getting to serve beyond my service, and I also got to get an official badge to do this again at my capacity. I don't act bigger than what I am. I'm not lower than what I am. I'm in my lane. I stay in my lane, but it's a military operation. And when you know that you know, and you know what you know, and you can't unknow it, you can't unsee it, you can't unread it, then no, you stay on your path. And I do believe that people, if they could learn military's personalities, they would understand why I sound direct and straightforward and sometimes like a pompous ass or whatever the terms are out there people say. It's because I'm not your boyfriend. I'm not your husband. I'm not your best friend. And now I'll be your friend. I'm not going to be showing you if I meet you, and people who've met me know I'll talk to a fence post, or even if it won't talk back. But I'll sit there and talk to you. I love people, but I also know what I know, and I know I put here for a reason, and it's all outlined in that. And I get frustrated for people because you don't need anything else. All you need is what President Trump's working with, because that's what he's working with, and that's all you need to know if you really want to know. All that other stuff's just drama. People have perspectives, but if perspectives don't lead to solutions, then they're just nothing but air and talk and hot air. Now, if you want to sit around a campfire and talk about aliens and ET phone home and all that, fine, great. I'm not going to knock you. I don't care what you believe in. I want you to be able to be free. I want you to be able to talk about it and do whatever you want to do, serve whatever God you think you want to serve. I'm all right with that. I'm not going to judge you. But in order to have that lifestyle, you got to have people who think like me. And people who think like me are what President Trump are. President Trump, my dad's 4 years older than President Trump. And so the other day, I'm 42 years old now, and I'm joking. I love it because my dad was like, I walked in somewhere with my cowboy hat on, sat down in the restaurant, and he just pointed up. I'm like, what you pointing at? I know what you're pointing at. I was joking with him. He's like, take your hat off. You're inside. Well, that's that generation. Bear Bryant, the old Alabama football coach, he used to say, my mom always told me to take my hat off when I went inside. Well, that's that generation, and their etiquette, their standard, their protocol, and they're goal oriented. They produce, and I mean they're just straightforward. My dad, I tell people all the time, if you think I'm bad, you should have held a flashlight for my dad growing up. He'd have told you quick when it wasn't in the right spot, and he'd have told you, and he wouldn't have told you delicately. All right, so many people could learn that, and that's what President Trump is. And there's a lot of people who claim to support him that don't really get and understand him, and that's the generation he comes from. It's because his mom and dad would have been in the same bracket of my grandfather, my dad's father, who was born in 1912. All right, so all my great grandparents were born except for one. All of them except for one were born in the 1880s and 90s. That's just me alone. So
real quickly, Derek, I got a few hands here. Hopefully they will respond when I call on them. So let's see. Go ahead, Janet. Texas by choice 55. Your mic is unmuted.
Hi, Jenny.
Hello.
Hi, Derek. How are y'all this evening?
Great.
Pleasure to talk with you, Derek.
Likewise.
I just have a one quick question. Do you have any idea where in Alaska that President Trump is going to be meeting President Putin?
I don't right off, but I've seen a lot of aircraft in and out recently in your capital. But I saw a couple of DOD aircraft up there on the radar. So now could be wrong, but that seems like to where a lot of activity has been in and out. Not at the military base either. I'm talking about the regular airport. They've been in and out of the regular airport there. So with the official Air Force Twos, which are sometimes they're in that capacity, sometimes they're not. But they were running SAM call signs, so that's your officials. So I'm assuming they're getting things set up there. But then again, a lot of this is still theater. Sometimes what'll happen with stuff like this, just because we're talking about it, sometimes this is something else completely happening in that region, and it looks like what it looks like. But a lot of this stuff's already been taken care of. But until we're out of a continuity of government by law on paper, then you're still in a theater type setting of what they're doing with the occupation and operation. So, but
Hence
Now,
the phrase, you're watching a movie.
now, look, you could go down there and see the double, um, and by all means, I tell people, look, I mean, if you want to do that, that's fine, but it may not even be public from the standpoint of being able to watch him walking to and fro the aircraft. It just depends, uh, but I've seen a lot of military aircraft in and out of your capital up there, but the international, the regular airport, not the military base. So that's I've been watching that too. I've been keeping up with that. Just seeing there was a Canadian aircraft military flying over Alaska. I think it was yesterday or day before. So there's been a lot of movement up there. But anyway,
Thank you,
very
Derek.
much.
Thank you, Janet. All right,
thank you.
Delinda, I saw you came up here. So if you're still in here, request a mic and I'll mute your mic. Lisa Bolfing, your mic is unmuted. Go ahead. Go ahead, Lisa. All right, guys, if you guys request a mic, please be mindful. Derek's here to answer your questions, so I got to move on. All right, Donna Lawrence, go ahead. Your mic is unmuted.
Oh, hi, Derek. How are you? This is great. I live in Buffalo, New York, and I don't have any friends, and I don't have a lot of friends, just so you know, because I lost my car. I can't go anywhere. But anyway, nobody's interested. I have people that follow Steve Bannon. I try to tell them what to say about it, or they follow some kind of spiritual person that has prophecies or whatever it is. And I can't. I'm like, maybe I should try to write a quiz that everybody's got to pass to be my friend. And I'm like, um,
They'd probably
I know,
fail that too, though. See, that's the thing.
I know, it won't work. It won't work. And then one day recently, I have it on my Telegram, but I can't share it with anybody. I don't know. I don't really communicate on Telegram. I couldn't send it to you. I was going to send you a CD. I can burn CDs with my digital recorder. I was just so mad that all these people are so stubborn, and I call them lazy and dumb, like what you say. So I made this song, and I was singing it to myself all day. Dumb and lazy, lazy and dumb. Dumb and lazy.
Well,
and I thought maybe if I send this to everybody, but then it's not going to help them change. So
no, you can't, and you just can't. I mean, it's
I know.
if official military can't make them, and it's not about making someone. So you don't want to coerce somebody. I don't either. But I'm like, but
No, I know.
but I get it. Everybody goes through it. Doesn't matter who you are, what capacity you are. Everybody goes through it because if I could, like I joke, if I could
Right.
make you, you would have it, right? If I could make you.
Right.
But
No, I guess I agonize about, well, how could I approach this person or that person, and nothing is. They just don't want to. They just like what they're doing.
It depends on your relationship with them. Like if it's a good friend or someone you grew up with and you know them really well and you just their personality or whatever it is. I mean, some friends you can joke with, others you can't. It just depends. There's variables, but like with I made a lady asked me that question in Anaheim, California about 3 years ago, and I said, well, I said, if you don't mind me asking this question like this without being male chauvinist, or anything like that, but I was like, who's the cook in your household? Is it you or your husband? She goes, it's me. I said, okay. I said, do you love him? Are y'all happy? You have a good relationship? Like, do you talk on a daily basis, or you prefer him be at his side of the house and you at yours? How's it like? No, we love each other. We talk all the time. That is what we engage. I said, okay. Do y'all still do the y'all still do the hanky panky? Right? You still love each other like that? She goes, yeah. I'm like, I say, see, I bring humor, but I bring truth and I bring reality. And I said, okay, well, starve him. That's what you do is you starve him. You say, you ain't getting no meal and you ain't getting no loving until you learn what I know. And I said, now, think if every woman, and now let's just be honest here. Let's just have fun. Think if every female did that to their husbands and boyfriends in reality. Now, I know it ain't the reality, but just think if that happened. Boy, you talking about some guys stepping up and getting in shape. You know what I'm talking about? So I'll use humor with it, but it depends on your friend and whoever it is. Then you can joke with them, or you say, hey, I challenge you. You know that old like Sandlot movie? I triple dog dare you right here. Learn this.
Mhm.
Well, you can make things like that. I knew a preacher in Virginia. He and his wife, she was Christian, he was Muslim. Well, he wasn't a practicing Muslim, and this is what led him to Christianity. He's a preacher now, and he's one of the best I've ever heard. And I can't even think of his name out the bat. But anyway, his wife would joke with him and say, "Honey, get in here real quick. Your cousin's on TV." And he'd run in there thinking it was his cousin. And it was America's Most Wanted. It was a joke. She would joke with him. Well, he started doing that to her. Honey, like wait and gave it enough time. Honey, your cousin he's on TV. Well, it was cops. She would run in there because she was white. And it was cops. Well, they had a loving relationship. Well, she made a bet with him one time. He wouldn't go to church with her. Now, he let her go to church, Christian church. He didn't stop her. He just wasn't active. Well, she made a loving bet with him one time. She said, I tell you what, if you read the Bible and you can debunk the Bible, then I will read the Quran and I will meet you in the middle. Well, because she wasn't denying anything any other way. It was him who was the argumentative one, and not in a bad way. He wasn't demoralizing to her, nothing like that. They had a loving relationship. But he said, man, the worst thing you can do, guys, is have to go to your wife and tell them that you were wrong. And he said, the more I read the Bible and the more I studied, and he studied in depthly. He studied the Hebrew and the context, etc., and he compared it. And he's now he was at Liberty University, and he was one of their top professors and preachers of the Word of God. Well, there's a prime example where that changed his whole life. It turned him, and I hate to use the term famous preacher, but he became known and notable all because of he and his wife. They weren't argumentative. They didn't demoralize each other. Nothing like that. But it was a loving kind of little relationship where she made a bet with him, and he took it. And then he was like, guys, I had to go tell my wife I was wrong. Well, so it depends on your friend and family, whoever it is. You can do that, and that's what I've told people. Yeah, that's how you plant a seed and go, okay, well, whatever it may be. Say, explain why Joe Biden would have a funeral service. What? What are you talking about? You're crazy. Well, this is Army regulations, and like I said on my podcast, you could be the queerest atheist. You could be the most God-hating person, but if you served honorably in the military, or you honorably retired, guess what you get? A military funeral. So the funeral itself don't have anything to do with your background or anything of that nature. It's if you have a DD 214 that says honorable, you die, you get a service. So why would they show 3 cannons and all the other stuff they showed on January the 20th for quote unquote Joe? It wouldn't, because if it would have been a mockery, then the military that do know about it, me and others that would have seen that, if that would have been a real scenario, and that would have been a mockery, and that would have caused an uprise with the veterans in another way. But we know it's an operation, and that was a visual to show people, hey, what you're watching ain't real. It's real to you if you've seen it that way, but it ain't real military wise. So see, it depends on who it is. There's a way to be playful with them if they matter to you that much. Some of them you may need to just cut ties with. Say, all right, don't want to be talking to you anymore, right? So
Thank you, Derek. All right, I got time for one more question, everybody. Carrie Alcock, your mic is unmuted. Go ahead. Go ahead, Carrie.
Carrie.
All right. Oh my goodness. Biss Drennan, I'm gonna unmute your mic. Go ahead. Go ahead, Biss.
Yes.
All right, Biss, your mic is unmuted. Oh my goodness. Carrie, I'm gonna unmute your mic. Go try it one more time. Go ahead. Your mic is unmuted, Carrie. Go ahead.
Can you hear me now?
Yes,
Oh,
we
yeah.
can.
Okay. Hello. What is your opinion about Canada becoming the 51st state?
No, well, I mean, you just got to go back to our origins with the Articles of Confederation. Our founders already considered Canada as a part of our union, if the other states were okay with it. So, when you think about back then, it was like 9 states, 9 or 11. It wasn't even the 13 colonies yet. So, but now what's funny, not knocking Canada, don't poop in my maple syrup up there, because I love y'all syrup, and so don't poop in it while I'm making fun. The Canadians who are up in arms and all this other stuff, I'm like, look how big your country is. but then there's only like 38 million of you. So it's not, it's like, that's maybe 10 U.S. cities. So, what's happening? Will it go back? So you got people in the U.S. that thinks that, oh, there's a new republic and there's going to be Donald Trump signed a new declaration. None of that's provable, and you wouldn't need it anyway. We didn't lose our republic on paper. We lost the visions. We lost our systems. We lost that. We didn't lose the actual foundation. So you'll hear people talking about, oh, is President Trump going to be the 19th president? Well, you can think of it whatever you want to think of, but I do believe that with the USMCA, which he put into place July the 1st, and if you're a true Canadian, you obviously know what I'm going to say. July the 1st, 1867 was a big day in Canadian history. Well, why did they use July the 1st to tear up NAFTA and establish the USMCA? So it shows you that the Canadians are already working with us, and also Canadian military, all that military movement I was talking about earlier with the underground facilities and the 572 million. Canadian Army publications already align with us, and they say that in their publications that we support U.S. and Israel and the 572 million. So Canada's been operating with us. What will that look like? When will that happen? If it does, I don't know. But all that chatter wasn't for nothing. All the Trudeau stuff wasn't for nothing. All this is not for just, poops and giggles. So I do believe, yes, that they will be at some capacity recognized in some way. But will you lose the Canadian name and things of that nature? Probably not. I think it'll still be some form more of an inclusive trade, but not necessarily losing, because you have a history, and then you have Canadians who love that history, and you don't want to disrupt that either for certain states. So I don't know what it'll look like if that happens, but the trade deals are already there, and all your military actions are already there. So we'll see. I don't know.
Thank you, Derek. No. Did that answer your question, Carrie?
Hopefully. I don't
know. Yes, it
we'll
did.
See.
Thank you very much.
Because if you're a real Canadian, you know about your history on July the 1st, and then so that's a big deal. I mean, it's to put that on that date, that's a big deal. And but I don't know. I don't know if I could call it any other kind of maple syrup, but Canada, man. I mean, I don't know if you could say, all right, well, we're going to change the name of that. We're going to make it North American syrup. I'm like, no, it's Canadian syrup. Yeah. That stuff's good. I don't know what it is about Canadian maple syrup, but it is different than any other kind of syrup. And I love me some Angel Mama, but Angel Mama ain't got nothing on no maple syrup.
Thank you, Derek. I agree with you. All right, everybody. Derek is here every 2 weeks. So, Derek, we'll see you in 2 weeks.
Yeah, I should be around. I mean, we'll be 2 weeks closer to liberal meltdown, right? And Republican parties. So.
All right, sweetie. Well, everybody, you guys have a great night. We're going to see Derek back here in 2 weeks, same time, same place. And then watch for the other shows for the rest of the week, everybody. God bless you. And thank you all for your participation. And once again, Derek, great job. And we'll talk to you soon.
All right. We'll see y'all guys soon.
Take care. Take care, everybody. God bless.